Hello, builders. My name is G. I'm a founder and angel investor here in the beautiful city of Boston, Massachusetts. And today I'm going to be doing something that I've been really nervous about doing for a while, but I'm super excited to actually go about and doing it. I've always been very interested in the build in public culture, the concept of actually legitimately building your business in a transparent format that actually allows for people to have an inside view of what's going on. Not just the PR, putting a launch video out there, or here's a behind the scenes, TikTok or, day in the life Instagram type of thing, but actually going through and pretending as if the general public are my shareholders, and I'm actually going to go through and be extremely, almost to my detriment, transparent. I think that I want to incentivize as many people to build as possible. And on this journey, I want to both show the ups and the downs, both sides, show that I'm readily happy and willing to fail and put out products that are not going to work. And honestly, that's been the majority of my career, more failure than successes. The successes just happen to outweigh, the failure. And so, I think that for most people, just being in the process of building, learning how to build, and being willing to, when the opportunity arises, try something and investigate a potential idea, which becomes a project that you work on that eventually blooms into becoming a business. I think that more people should be in a position to do that. And I'd be extremely happy if I can motivate and inspire the next generation of builders to go out and do it. And look, I know that a lot of people will say that, hey, most builders should be motivated from the get to be able to do it. Not everyone's wired that way. And maybe it's not just motivation to build the next billion-dollar business, but actually just building a nice, decent SMB that helps propel someone into the middle class. It's something that's incredibly important to me. I'm so lucky, given the opportunities and the education I've been able to receive, not just from school, but from, the Techstars experience that I was able to have, the mentors, the people who've been around me, the co-founders that I've been fortunate to have. All those things across the board led me to who I am, right? And not everyone has access to that. So I really just want to kind of put forth, in public, what I'm building, what I'm currently working on, being really rigorous with myself to actually ship, launch, and showcase, what being a founder is generally like, right? And this was heavily inspired by Mr. Levels. I don't know his first name actually, but he's a Twitter account. I'll try to put it on the video, what he does in his profile of just listing the MRR. It's a flex to him, I can tell, but to me, being able to showcase something similar, to showcase from the 0 to whatever number it goes to, and it might just be 0 to 0, that'd be really sad, but is the case in many different types of businesses, to really show those ups and downs, right? So let's jump straight into it. Okay, so this is the spreadsheet that I'm using to track, and I have a holding company, LexCorp, Lee Experimental Holdings Corporation, that I use to basically be the catch-all business for all of these line item apps, right? And I have multiple brands, and honestly, to me, I'm willing to build a business if the brand just happens to work out. And one of the things that's super interesting to me, aside from the fact that I wanted to build tools for founders, just because I thought man, why am I using Notion or, Trello and different tools that are built for general software engineering or large companies? None of these are really tailored for use at the founder level. So I really wanted to build there. And one of the things that happened was I saw the emergence of Clippy, especially within the LLM space nowadays, more chatbots, smarter chatbots, all those types of things. Not necessarily saying that I'm taking the chat part of it, but seeing how nostalgic and resonant an impact that Clippy had, even from the before LLM days, to people, and the fact that people keep bringing up Clippy over and over again, even though, he's been a deprecated feature for so many years. It's not in any modern, Word product or any Microsoft product. Like, I created a character, a Shiba Inu character, separate from Dogecoin, because I think that's ridiculous. I want to reclaim that for more serious and still playful in some sense purposes. But to create a character named Poke, right, short for Pocket, because originally I wanted to create these as mobile apps. As it turns out, web is probably the way to go for a lot of the interfaces for these. It's a conversation for a different day. But, still like using the name Poke, because I thought like on the phone you would see Poke in the corner as like a floating action button in the corner, and you'd poke him and he'd be able to be an assistant. Not necessarily an AI agent or an LLM chatbot or whatever, but just like Clippy. You click on him, he provides some suggestions based off of the page that you're on. I'm still I'm still kind of adapting that for the website sense, and thankfully, there's many examples of the little chatbots in the corner. I think that it's just like an interesting brand. So I have along the left side here multiple different applications. Poke Founder University, which is kind of an education platform. I think education is a huge part of what I do, trying to demystify stuff, allow for entries into the space, and try to make it less daunting for people, right? Entry points and whatnot. So both the accelerator that I'm running to, providing different educational content, and I want to be able to do more of that, right? Like, I want to have it sit somewhere, and kind of in a YC founder school type format. We have Poke Founder University, which will be in this URL. Not completely done yet, so I haven't pushed it there, but rest assured, all of anything that I would create education-wise, I get to put into Poke Founder University, and that can be the kind of education part of the Poke Apps brand. We also have Poke Chops, which is related to marketing. Again, one of the things that I was thinking about, and honestly, there might be a pivot coming soon here, and I'm just kind of explaining thoroughly through some of the different apps here, but, I've been creating podcasts a lot, and editing is a really hard part for me, and I really just want to be able to chop up different parts into different segments to repurpose them. Some of them, a lot of the content that I create is long form, so chopping it up into moderately sized videos to shortened clips for YouTube Shorts, Instagram, etc., LinkedIn does really well. So just being able to operationalize that, but not just the editing part, but just the creation of podcasts going forward. Because a lot of times for me, it's scheduling, it's knowing what to say, it's coming up with interview questions, and actually doing it in a systematic manner. It's not necessarily the work. It's just me putting it off until it's hey, I'm sending you the interview questions the night before. I'm so sorry because I forgot about it, right? And being able to do task management for marketing and to integrate what is the purpose of this, podcast, right? And turning it into, I've read different books about marketing just to kind of learn more about the space, and they really talk about how they're concerned about the demise of campaign managers, especially in the age of social media, where, and sure, this might be old man yelling at clouds, but just kind of makes sense in my mind, because it's the same thing that revolution, kind of pushed software engineering forward, was adding in kind of an agile process to software engineering. Not saying it necessarily needs to be agile, because it's super different. There's no, fundamental user to really talk to. But I think that just the continuous improvement and refinement of your marketing message, and being able to use data and, the numbers and the metrics to support, hey, is this strategic initiative we've got kind of working, and being able to create a tool. And I'm using Trello, a copy of Trello as kind of the base there, right? Just using some of the different design-based structures there to kind of create via Kanban, right? I know that Trello is based off of Kanban, so really it's more of copying Kanban than Trello. But just being able to take that and move it towards a marketing sense, it's just an experiment that I'd like to try, and that's Poke Chops. You can see I'm rambling along a lot of these because they're raw and new concepts, right? And so, Poke Finance, super basic and easy. I want to just do QuickBooks, but for startups, that'll be Poke Finances. Still working on the different kinks of that, but working through it. So we'll see what that ends up looking like. But I think it would be very interesting to be able to connect like finance with a bunch of different things, and like with a through line for a lot of these different applications, like we're kind of being able to have them interconnected because they're all within the same brand. I think that would be really powerful. Poke Pitch, super simple idea. It's just a platform for someone to be able to generate a pitch deck based off of coming up with answering a questionnaire, right? And there's no AI or LLM in it. I personally don't think that it's necessarily needed. It's just a set of stuff that investors are looking for. Answer the questionnaire. You get out a basic version of a slide, pretty it up a little bit. Don't kill yourself, doing that, but just, being able to put it out there in a structured format. It's the goal of Poke Pitch. And then one kind of app that's on the consumer end of things, Draft Stocks, which keep adding the S. I have the URL for just the singular, unfortunately. But with Draft Stock, it's fantasy draft, just like for football, fantasy draft for football, but for your stock portfolios. So you and a bunch of friends can come together and basically go through like a whatever round draft of different stock tickers and create a portfolio, which then you go and compete against each other. So a fantasy portfolio of, different stock tickers, and you basically compete amongst your friends to do it. I think it's a really interesting and clever way to basically have people actually go into the fundamentals, just like people are getting super nerdy about, different football stats. I think that it's good if more and more people like learn about the different metrics that appear on your Robinhood, your Fidelities. Like there's a list of stats there. But if people can actually, in a gamified format, actually internalize it and be able to have those types of conversations, I think it would be really powerful. So I'm actually looking to probably build a podcast around that space. I think it's a good go-to-market strategy for that. But yeah, that's basically going to be the main part of it. You can see I have different metrics listed to the right here. The wait list, the user count, MRR, ARR. Will be very transparent with all of those numbers and updating it month after month, and just being able to showcase like I as a founder coming up with different apps and ideas. Like a lot of them will not work, some of them may, and you will be able to see like what ones make it, what ones don't. I think that I'm going to try to not delete anything. Like, look, if it's 0 waitlist, 0 user count, 0 MMR, 0 AR, it's staying on there. Maybe I might no, I shouldn't push it down to the bottom. I'm just going to leave it the way it is. So I think it's super important just to show listen, failure happens, and it's just a fact of, literally doing business, right? And so it shouldn't be anything that's like a scarlet letter or should be ashamed of. Like, you tried something, you gave it your best attempt, admit it frankly and move on. And you can be commended for seeing a project through to the end, and hey, if it does work, if your project that you're working here, like I am with a bunch of different projects here, happens to work, they can translate into or transition into becoming a business. I think that a lot of people are really worried about failing at a startup, and I think that it's kind of a toxic part of just the startup industry. I've kind of tried to stop using the term startup at all, really just kind of cut that out of my vocabulary. I think that by just saying that there are projects, which are ideas that you build on, you build an MVP around, you try to validate and see if it works or not. You're not failing at a project if it turns out that, hey, just not a business here. No, you've successfully taken a project through to its end and demonstrated that, hey, my hypothesis was that this was going to be a really great business. Turns out, not so much. You didn't fail at it. The only fail that you would have at a project is if you abandoned it, right? But if you see it through to the end, that's to be commended and be considered a success. A lot of founders will get through to the point where they're like, you know what, my product gets put out there in the market, my MVP. Turns out, it's just an amount of market demand for it. Unfortunate is the way that it is. we move on to the next thing, as opposed to dragging that business along. Man, maybe there's something that I can do here. Maybe there's something I can do there. I'm not talking about pivoting, of course. Pivoting is an important part of it, but like I would just say, like, a startup failure. I built a product, put it out there, and I failed, and it's a scarlet letter because everyone's not going to respect me anymore. Let's change the narrative. You took a project, maybe it works, maybe it doesn't. See it through to its completion. You succeeded on that project, found out there's no business there. Or the flip side, you succeeded at completing a project, you move forward, and you're actually going to make it transition it into a full business. Congratulations. The goal of every startup was to become a business anyways. And so, you know what? I've cut out the middleman, the startup end, and, kind of gone forth. We are all businesses at the end of the day, whether it's a restaurant, whether it's whatever, fancy enterprise SaaS, to medicine, to, different biotech, whatever deep tech solution. We are all businesses, right? We just happen to grow at different speeds. And so, putting a lot of pressure on people to create venture scalable startups and to try to, make sure that my startup has to work or else people aren't going to respect me. I'm going to have that failure to carry with me. I think that's too much pressure for the industry writ large and really discourages a lot of people from building in the first place. So I think just looking at it as projects versus businesses is a great way of kind of lowering the temperature down, kind of lowering the disappointment that someone may have of finding out a product doesn't have, product market fit. Kind of makes it easier for someone to move from project to project to project, continue ideating, helping create more innovation, which is honestly something that, is the strength of this country and something that I'm super proud of seeing people go through. So hopefully this is a great peek behind the curtain for different things. I know it's going to be a longer update. There's going to be updates in different areas as I go moving forward. But, this is a good primer, a good starting point. So sorry for the long-winded rant at the end of there. But hopefully this will be a really great series. I'm really committing to building in public and, kind of showing that peek behind the curtain of what founder life is like. You're going to see different things from me. I'm going to make mistakes. I'm going to do cool things, hopefully more cool things than mistakes. But ultimately, at the end of the day, right, I'm putting myself out there to be the punching bag so that I hopefully motivate and inspire more people to go out there and build. So just to kind of leave everyone off here at the end of this video, just remember, if G can build, so can you. Until next time, go out there and build. Thank you.